Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Welcome everybody. I hope your weekend is off to a great start, and thank you for joining me for this IELTS Task 2 writing class on the topic of living alone. Now, a similar question to this appeared not so long ago in the IELTS exam, and one of our clients sent us this question to see how we can write a Band 9 response. Welcome, Fluong. Hi, Angel. Hi, Elizabeth. Domenico, nice to see our members. Carolina, welcome, our chat moderator. If you have questions, you can ask me. You can also ask from Carolina as well. Nipa, Darmenda, Rihan, Karina, good to see our subscribers. This is a subscribers chat class, everybody. You need to subscribe to this YouTube channel to join the chat. It's free, it's easy, and you will get notifications of live classes. Of course, as usual, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. For academic IELTS, visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access to join these websites, and they are the websites that power these live classes. We use them regularly to interact with students for resources, practice exams. So if you're in these classes day in, day out, make sure to join the premium version by clicking on the big red button. It's just right above my head there. It is a one-time payment for lifetime access. You can join the premium package through YouTube as well by clicking Shopping, Products, clicking on the Academic or General IELTS course, going to Shopify, and then sending me an email, and I will activate your premium account after purchase is made. We're an IDP affiliate. We are a British Council partner. We are an IELTS test registration center. We're certified British Council agents. We have been helping thousands of students to improve their English and succeed on their IELTS exams. Become one of these lovely students and success stories, continuing on with your education career paths. Students, for general IELTS, it's gieltshelp.com. It's the green background. You just click that big red button. Same idea. The two websites actually interface with each other. I don't mention that too often, but they do. So when you're in the student partner speaking and you're looking for speaking partners, you will see the same people appearing on the academic as the general IELTS version of the website. So these two websites are separate, but they also kind of link together, if you will. We have this code INSPIRE9 to get you an extra 10% discount on the websites. And we also have apps, Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. The apps link to the respective websites. Also, we've got tons of free materials for people who are not sure and would just like to get a bit of free help. This blog article, for instance, Task 2, about supporting artists, that's free. Instagram is IELTS_AE Help and GIELTS Help. Check us out on Instagram. We've got lots and lots and lots and lots of followers, and lots of great content for you there. Okay. Again, if you have questions, Carolina is a good person to reference, or myself. You can send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, admin@aehelp.com. There's extra help for writing and speaking on the websites. You'll find those. I'll show you those a little bit later on. And you can also purchase our books from Amazon. Students, we've got Task 2. We just finished reading, and we've got Task 2 writing. We're going to go through the full question essay step by step. Tomorrow we've got speaking part 2 and speaking part 3. And then on Sunday on the website, we will have a 90-minute live class. We just started this new feature where we are now live streaming on our websites. So students, when you log in to your My Student account, you will be able to join live classes by clicking that blue button, and that becomes active when there is a live class. So on Sunday at 13:30 UTC, you will be able to click that button and you will see me there teaching a live speaking class. Okay. Aman, it depends on your level. Aman is asking, if I buy the academic premium, will I be able to give a test? It depends on your current English. Certainly, Aman, it will help you a lot to achieve your goal. Definitely. Okay, especially when you use it regularly every day for 3-4 hours. Okay, for sure. It will help you tons. Okay. All right, students, this video we released last week, and this week we're putting up, actually for tomorrow, a listening video. So you'll be able to see that on the channel, okay? All right, let's do this. So IELTS Task 2 writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. Make sure to spend 40 minutes. Not a minute less. You might spend a minute more if you feel necessary. It is worth 2/3 of your writing mark. Now here's the question, and like I say, this question did appear, or a similar question appeared on an IELTS exam not so long ago. In some countries, many more people are choosing to live alone nowadays than in the past. Do you think this is a positive or negative development? Give explanations and examples for your answer. So this is a persuasive essay. Persuasive essay means that it's an essay which you're writing to convince your reader. Okay, aimed to convince your reader of your argument. Okay. All right, so first step, especially when you have this really kind of short question, is to paraphrase the question. So paraphrasing the question means use your own words to state the question. Now, this is not your introduction, okay, everybody? This is simply just to make sure you understand the question and to get you some good ideas. The IELTS actually has some new marking criteria around paragraphing, and this is exactly what I've been teaching, and now the IELTS decided that, yeah, okay, we need to make this standard for the marking criteria, because a lot of students are writing these really template kind of paragraphs, like it's part of this marking criteria, but they're writing paragraphs like, in certain countries, way more individuals are choosing to live by themselves now more than before. In this essay, I will discuss the positive and negative of this and give my opinion. Okay. As you can see, this literally took me like a minute to write. It's a template. Okay. This is a band 5. And now the IELTS will actually mark this on their criteria, band 5. They'll mark it as poor template paragraphing. Okay. So pay attention to that new criteria. Part of the paragraphing criteria means that the candidate for band 7 to 9 is able to write well-developed paragraphs, okay? And that's important to note, okay? Everybody clear on this? Okay, so there's a new criteria, a new marking that has been added to IELTS just recently, last month or so, called paragraphing. Okay, and what they call good paragraphing is this. Good to expert paragraphing, which is band 7 to 9, right? So maybe some of you, when you saw this new criteria, you're like, oh, Adrian's been saying that for years, right? Well, and it's not Adrian saying that, and it's not the IELTS saying that it's new. It's just implementing standard English literature technique, okay? So keep that in mind, everybody. This is not actually something new. It is simply identifying, or it is simply marking standard English essay writing standards, and encouraging students to avoid the use of templates, okay, or awkward structure where the whole essay is just one big kind of paragraph, okay? Does everybody understand that about the paragraphing? Have you heard about this new specific criteria called accurate paragraphing or structured paragraphing? I think there's a few different terms floating around. Yeah? Has everybody heard about this? The paragraphing? Sandhu says, yep. Okay. So again, paragraphing is not new. It's not like IELTS invented. IELTS did not invent paragraphing. Okay, it's standard English essay, and this is what I've been saying for a long time. You cannot write a paragraph like this. This is not a good introduction according to English literature. So in certain countries, way more individuals are choosing to live by themselves now more than before. In this essay, I will discuss the positive and negatives of this and give my opinion. It's not a good paragraph, okay? It's a band 5, all right? And if another teacher tells you, no, it's a good, they don't know what they're talking about, okay? It's not good paragraphing. All right, so again, the introduction, as I've said before, actually needs a hook, a background, and a thesis, because that's good paragraphing for the introduction. That is the English standard, okay? So introductory paragraph, and hopefully now you'll see lots of other teachers teaching this as well, includes hook. I'm starting to see more people write hooks now because of this criteria, which is great. So hook, background, and thesis. Okay, direct thesis. This will equal good introductory paragraphing. Okay, all right, okay. Okay, so that's what we want to work on. We do paraphrase the question, and it's good to do this on your note paper in the computer-based exam with your pencil, just so your brain really gets moving. Rihan has a paraphrase for us. Let's check it out, Rihan. I like to see writing in the chat. That's lovely. Okay, so Rihan says, in some nations, several individuals, not several, but it's many, okay? Many individuals are opting to live in solitary. Okay, Rihan, let's simplify this, okay? You have a good word here, solitary, which means by themselves. Instead of opting, we can say are living. You don't even need to say opting or choosing because it's usually a choice. Living solitary lifestyles more than previously. Do you contemplate that this is no, contemplate is like you're thinking about it. It's a little bit off. It's not the right word here, Rihan. I would use consider. Did the question use consider or a different word? Yeah, no, it said, do you think? So instead of think, you can use do you consider. This is beneficial or detrimental, not improvement, because you can't have a detrimental improvement. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so do you consider that this is a beneficial or detrimental change? Okay, we can say. And now, Rihan, it's an accurate paraphrase. So students, do make sure that your paraphrasing is accurate. Okay. All right. So we have the question, we have paraphrased, we have an idea of, you know, what's going on, and we know what the introduction is. Okay. Now, before I start writing, right, It's important to have some good ideas, and where a lot of candidates get stuck are ideas. You cannot write a good essay without good ideas. Remember that, okay? So good English is not enough for task 2. You must have good ideas, okay? Just keep in mind, you cannot write a good essay without good ideas, okay? So you have to plan, okay? So this means that you must plan before you write. 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. Now, think about your own context. Do you live alone? Do you live with somebody? Do you find living alone good or bad? So think about yourself. Do you live alone or with others? If alone, do you like it? Why? If with others, do you like it? Why? Okay, are you happy with life? There, you can answer these questions in both, from both directions. Of course, think about your own context. It's asking about you. Now here, do not write an essay that explains both sides, okay? And it's kind of ambiguous or unconvincing, right? Your goal here is to convince. Do not write an essay that explains both sides, as this is boring and does not answer the question. Okay, so pay attention to the question. It's another common mistake, right? So people say, well, there are some negatives, there are some positives. You might mention it, okay? You can mention both sides, but you should focus on one side. So although you can mention both negatives and positives, you need to focus on one side and not just at the end. Okay, I don't know about you, but when I'm reading an essay that goes introduction, and the introduction is this, okay, that I've written here, and then body 1, some negatives of living alone, body 2, some positives of living alone, body 3, my opinion, and then conclusion. For this question, this would not work. Why? Because if I'm your reader, and this is, again, you always think about yourself, right? Because your audience will be similar to you, so in their understanding or in their feeling, right? And so when I look at this, like in this sense, if I write like this, I get this feeling. I get the feeling of kind of boring. So let me do it this way. I kind of get the feeling of like boring and get to the point already. Okay, so that's what I feel. When you start writing about, well, some of the negatives of living alone are getting into depression, not having other people to talk to. However, some of the positives are being independent, not being bothered by roommates or friends or family. And it's kind of like, okay, well, get to the point already. Like, is it good? Is it bad? You haven't really told me any new information here, right? So what's your opinion? Should I live alone? Should I live with somebody? So it's kind of like get to the point, right? So it's not the most effective, all right? If you want a high band essay, you need to write effective arguments. You have to have effective structure, right? So that has to start from the very first sentence. Okay, people have very short attention spans today, especially. If you're not able to capture them, if you're not able to make it interesting, it's not effective. And not just for IELTS, but for school, for work, for business projects, and other aspects of life as well. Okay. And Sadiq saying they're introverts or having privacy. Yeah, I mean, sure, but where are we going with it, right? Yeah, Amra, nice to have you join. Good to see you in the class. One of our other moderators has jumped in, which is great. Amra said, yeah, just stick to one side. And how do I know that? The question, right? So the question says, do you think this is a positive or negative development? It doesn't say discuss both sides. It's asking you, do you think this is positive or negative, right? What do you think? Doesn't matter. The IELTS examiner is not going to judge you if you think it's positive. They're not going to judge you if you think it's negative, as long as you support your argument. Okay, so let's take the easy road for this one. What's the topic? So what are we talking about? Okay. It's a persuasive essay, and I always think about persuasive. Don't just think opinion. It is a subjective persuasive essay, if we want to be very specific here. So Amra says it's about living alone. The topic is living alone. Yes, it is. Okay. Good. Sure. So that's the topic. Okay. And then the controlling idea, is it good or bad? Now, some of you might think, well, it's both, right? But which is more? Okay. How can we figure that out? All right. Now, if you learn social sciences, it's going to be a little bit easier, of course, like if you learn sociology or psychology. You know, think about the average. Think about what you know. Use what you know. Okay? Who are we talking about here? We're talking about humans, right? What do we know about humans when it comes to solitary or community? That's really what we're talking about here. And I'm going to try to lead you down a path of simple logic, right? In the IELTS, you want to use simple logic to come up with good ideas, because when you have good ideas and you combine that with good English, you get high band scores. So keep this in mind, student. Good ideas plus good English equals band 7 to 9. Good English, or sorry, let's say this, bad ideas plus good English equals band 6 to 7. Or am I going to say band 5 to 7? Okay. Bad ideas, bad English equals less than 5. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. I think it's that one. Less than 5. Yes, like that. Okay. So everybody got that? So good ideas, good English, you'll get a band 7 to 9 essay. Bad ideas, good English, you might get a band I don't even want to say, like, you'll get 6.5. I don't even want to say 7. I don't want you to think that that's easy. You have to have really good English with some bad ideas. Okay, and then bad ideas, bad English, you're getting less than 5. All right? In task 2. That's basically how it works. Okay? Yeah, so Diaz says that humans are social creatures. Exactly. Right? So don't overcomplicate. Okay, so we know that humans are social creatures. There are clearly animals that are social and there are animals that are solitary. Humans are a social species. Okay, versus bears that are, or loggerhead turtles, right? Loggerhead loggerhead turtles. I'm laughing because many of you get the joke. It's from our reading passage. Or loggerhead turtles that are solitary. They want to live alone. They don't really get along when you put them into groups. Okay? All right? Okay, so there. Okay. So they're solitary. We're social. Okay, so fair enough. So let's go to the next step then. What happens to humans when they live alone? Okay, so what happens to humans when they spend a lot of time alone? Okay. And there are actually, I'm sure a lot of you know about this, there are scientific results or very obvious biological and scientific research or studies that show this, right? So Raj says depression. Yes. Okay, what else? So poor mental health. Okay, it's boring. Poor mental health. Sure. Okay. All right. There could be drug addiction. Sure. Right. We try to get stimulation elsewhere. Okay. Lack of motivation. Yeah, we're motivated by groups. Okay. All right. So sedentary lifestyle. Yes. So we start to spend more time just sitting. Yeah, we definitely force each other to move. Move it! I'm sitting over there. Right? Okay, so a lot of those come into play. Okay, now, obviously there are positives and negatives to living alone. Okay, so don't get me wrong here, students. We could take this the other way. There are positives or negatives, but I'm taking the negatives here. Actually, our immune system, scientifically, it's shown that the immune system significantly decreases in efficiency when we live alone. So living with others, especially for the elderly. Many of you have probably heard that one of the reasons elderly often get sick and pass away when they live alone is because their immune systems get weak. So weaker immune systems. We strengthen our immune systems by living in groups. We actually strengthen with each other. Okay, so good. So, you know, there are benefits like independence, for example. Okay. All right. Now, let's look at another aspect here. So what are the positives of living in a group? Okay, that's another way to look at it. So basically what you're doing here is you are taking an object like an apple, or let me take my highlighter here, right? So when you look at the question, you're basically manipulating the question, looking at it from different angles. So here, what are the positives of living with other people? Okay. Madhavi says sharing and caring. What else? Self-reflection. More productive. Okay, sure. Think about some of the age-old wisdoms, right? You might have heard the expression, 2 brains are better than 1. Okay. I'm sure many of you will agree with me on this, that in groups, humans exponentially increase their creativity and productivity. Okay. So when we cohabit, when we live in groups, when we work together in a group continuously, it exponentially, it means it's not just 2 people productivity, but 2 people working together can often equal the same productivity as 3 individuals. Do you get what I'm saying? So 2 people together can be more productive and create more than 3 individuals. Okay, right? So we're built that way. We're built in this way. And you look at all of our animal cousins like monkeys, chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans and gorillas, and they're the same, right? They're evolved to function in groups, right? So yes, we can argue that living alone has its benefits, but the easier argument here is to say that the negatives outweigh the positives, okay? So the easier argument is that the negatives outweigh the positives of solitary life. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Adrian, I don't want to agree with you. I live by myself. I'm really happy. I can connect with my computer through other people. I wouldn't do that because that becomes a very challenging essay. It's not really living alone anymore, right? So if you're thinking like, well, I'm going to go with the other side. I live alone and I'm happy. I use my computer to connect with my friends and family all the time. In a way, you're not living alone. In this sense, you're not really alone. Okay. And if you try to write this kind of essay, it's more of like a 5-page essay because you have to explain what living alone really means in today's world with technology. And then you get into an extremely complex and confusing piece of writing that is definitely not for the IELTS exam, okay? If you have a sociology class in university and you want to take that approach that, well, living alone today is very different than 20 years ago before the internet and video conferencing and WhatsApp and Zoom, yeah, I agree, 100%. Not on the IELTS, okay? On the IELTS, that's not a 250, 300-word essay in a 40-minute time limit, okay? So keep that in mind, everyone. This is not an argument that is good for 250 words in 40 minutes on the IELTS. Okay, that's a sociology class or psychology class essay that's 2,000 words and 4 pages. Okay, do you understand what I mean there? So your goal on the IELTS is an interesting one, right? Because your goal on the IELTS is to get a high band score. And to do it in 40 minutes and to do it in 300 words, let's say. Okay, so you have to be careful about how complicated. Don't don't go over the top complicated with your ideas. All right. Okay. And some of you are like, well, that's what I wanted to write. Well, yeah, but are you going to be able to effectively explain and clarify that for the examiner in a 40-minute time limit? I mean, myself as a university graduate with native English, I would be very cautious and worried to try to write that essay. Okay, so I'm going to go with the easier approach and say living alone is boring, it leads to depression, and living with groups has the benefit of being more productive, and therefore living alone is less productive and less motivational and enjoyable. It's going to be the easier way. Okay, so let's do it. Let's write this. The introduction, as I mentioned, includes a hook, a background, and a thesis. So let's do that. The hook is an interesting, short, quick statement, including the topic that's interesting, that catches the reader's attention. Short, let's say 12 words, average. Okay, includes the topic. So in this case, living alone. Okay. Plus it's interesting. Make it a fact, not a question. Okay, everybody? Fact, not a question. Okay. Yeah, Angel says we shouldn't always be honest in this case. Absolutely not, Angel. Okay, like some of you are probably university students and you're like, I live alone and I'm happy. Well, yeah, but you're probably hardly ever home alone. You're probably always out partying, your friends visiting, you're visiting your friends. So it's like you're living alone, but are you really living alone? No, you just have a place where you go to sleep by yourself where other people don't bother you, right? Or when you need to study, then you can do that. So again, students, you can write from both sides. It just becomes more challenging, okay? We're taking the easier road here for this essay. Make sense, right? Okay, so short 12 words includes the topic living alone. Interesting fact, okay? Let's see what you can come up with. Maya, that's looking a bit long. Can you try to write that shorter? Anna, let's see what you have here. Anna says, living independently from parents can give people more responsibility and creativity. Ooh, don't include arguments in your hook. Do not start the essay with an argument, especially a subjective argument. Why? Why do you think? Well, it's in rare cases it happens, but usually English literature will say, don't do that. Okay. Do you know why, Anna? Do you know why, everybody? So why it's not good to start with an argument like this? So here Anna opens right away. This is almost like a thesis, right? So it is a thesis. Living independently from parents can give people more responsibility and creativity. That's a thesis. Why should I not? And you'll see this in writing, in good writing, that usually the persuasive essays don't start with an argument like that. Why? Koa says it shows that you're biased. Not really. Okay. It's ineffective, strategically speaking. Okay. It's again human nature. So people usually do not respond well to opinions that are too quick. Think about it this way. It's like trying to kiss the person you like before saying hello and introducing yourself. Okay. It's human nature, right? We just don't do that. So, ooh. Excuse me? What? What just happened? Right? So usually we go, hi, I'm Adrian. I'm from Victoria, and I think you're amazing. Oh, wow, that was a bit quick, but at least you introduced yourself, right? So you don't want to catch a person with an opinion very quickly. They usually don't, even when they agree, they don't respond well. They're like, whoa, easy. I've got my own opinions here. So Koa says, excuse me? Oh my goodness, says Nipa. Right? Exactly. So oftentimes when we open with an argument, like living independently from parents can give people more responsibility and creativity, right? Your poor mom and dad are like, excuse me? Did you just slap me? Right? Okay, so let's take a look at some other hooks here. Okay, Angel, very nice. So this is kind of where, your paraphrasing comes in. So Angel says, why not just take it slowly, right? Let's take it one step at a time. Living independently has recently become prevalent universally. Yeah, instead of universally, I would say across the globe. But yes, Angel, that's good. Living independently has become prevalent across the globe. We don't even need recently because the grammar has become tells us, Angel, that it's recent. Okay, that's a nice hook. Simple. It's not too pushy, nothing going on yet. It's just the kind of fact that gets us interested, right? Okay. All right, Anahita, same thing, kind of a strong argument there, right? Yosef, don't use the word things in your essay, okay? Students, avoid the word things. I'm going to show you what Yosef wrote here. Don't use the word things. It's weak writing, okay? So do not use the word things. Joseph says, living alone is one of the most challenging things a person can do. Living alone is one of the most challenging endeavors. Okay. A person can do. Sure. Or is one of the most challenging choices a person can make. Okay. Again, it's a bit of an opinion, but it's not over the top, so it's okay. Don't use the word things, though. Things, it's kind of like, yeah, your professor is going to do this. What things? Or your examiner, in this case. If I'm your examiner, that's what I'm thinking. What things? What are you talking about? What are the other things? Okay, so careful with that word. No things. Okay? All right. So careful with that. All right? Keep it simple. Okay? Maya says, now there are 666% population of the earth that lives alone. Yeah, they're very good, Maya. I like that. So Maya says, why not just give like a fact? Maya says, nowadays, 10% of the adult population on earth. Now, earth here is capital E, Maya, because it's not the dirt, it's not the soil, not what the plants grow in, although it is, but we're talking about Gaia, like Mother Earth, so big E, okay? So nowadays they're 10%, and you can give a fact like this, and then you're like, well, what if that's not true? It's fine. The examiner will say, yeah, that's about right, probably. So nowadays, 10% of the adult population on Earth lives alone. Okay? Sure. Maya, that works. All right? It's catchy. I like it. It's believable. It's a fact. It includes the topic. I like it. Okay? So let's do it. Nowadays, and if you say, well, I don't want to be so objective or subjective, you can say roughly. So nowadays, roughly 10% of the world's adult population lives alone. Okay, now the background. Okay, now the background includes the definition and importance of the question. Okay, so what does it mean to live alone? And why are we talking about this? So give me the background here, everybody. What does it mean to live alone? Why are we talking about this, right? Okay. Okay, and that's what I'm going to write for this. And then, so that's my definition. And I'll explain that. I want you to think about your definition. So I'm not reading it. Some of you can read it, but I encourage many of you to come up with the definition by yourselves. What does it mean to live alone? What does that mean for you? Okay. And then I'm going to write about the importance. Okay, and that's the importance. So this first piece here is my definition. And sometimes the importance can precede the definition, especially when it's very obvious, right? But usually the definition will precede the importance. Okay, so there we go. All right. And then comes my thesis. Okay. So let's see what you have for your background. Good. Rihan wrote background. And students, it's just enough to write B colon. I'll get it. Okay. So this is the background by Rihan. I thought Rihan, I took your thesis too, but I guess not. Okay. So Rihan says background. Students, you can just do this to make it easier on your life and save some space. Just do B, and I'll know that that's your background. Okay. Like Domenico is doing H for the hook there. Okay. Sandhu, being comfortable with your own gives a superpower does not make sense. This is what I mean. You have to have good content that will lead to better English and better information. Okay. Don't switch to second person voice, students. So Koa says it is to be by yourself. Do not use second person voice. I live with 3 other people, my wife and 2 children. So it would be very strange to use a second person voice for a reader like myself. A lot of the examiners will be people that have families as well. So don't use second person voice. Don't use you, your, yourself. Okay, that's an important tip, everyone. Do not use you, yourself. Okay, second person voice or second voice of the author is not good to use in task 2. Okay. If you're not sure about voices of the author, like first person, second, third person, you need to check that. Okay. Okay. So don't use second person voice. All right. It makes for confusing and awkward writing. Okay. All right. Let's see. So Rihan says some individuals leave their home and spend life in a deep, solitary, either a forest or a single room. Rihan, do you know people that are living in the forest by themselves? By the way, anybody, here's a fun fact question for you. A person living in a forest by themselves, what do you call that in English? And we actually refer to people living by themselves and not really socializing, being introverted with this term. It's not a very nice way to call somebody. It's not cursing, but it's kind of insulting. It's not Tarzan, Eunice. No, Nat, it's not Tarzan. And it's not Mowgli. You false too. Very good. Nice. Yeah, very good. You false too. Got it. You false too. Very good. It's called a hermit. Hermit. Okay. An easy way to remember that. Everybody knows that fun little creature that lives in a seashell, that crab, that little crab guy, that lives in the shell of a sea snail, right? The name of that is a hermit crab. Okay. And why? Because they live by themselves in their own little shell. Okay. In English, it's called a hermit crab. Okay. Now, we don't call the person a hermit crab. Obviously, we just call them a hermit. But hermit means to kind of live by yourself, right? Okay. So they're a bit of a hermit. So Rihan, some individuals leave their home and spend life as a hermit in a single room. Sure. This determines the nation's economy and mental growth in society. Too global, Rihan. This determines the individual's mental development and impacts national economy. We have to stay parallel. Okay. All right, so that would be the background. Okay, good. So you get the idea. And now, Rihan, it's good. The background's good. So I wrote mine one way. Rihan wrote another way. There are lots of different ways. Anahita says, living alone is, don't say refers to the, too wordy, is the abandonment of one's family and friend and living in an apartment, a solitary lifestyle. It is aimed at having privacy, freedom, and personal growth. Again, too quick for the argument, Anahita. You're mixing your thesis with your background. Okay? Don't do that. So wait for it. Don't mix it. Okay? I see the camera flashed out. I'll be flashing back in just a sec. There I am. All right. So too quick, right? Too quick. Ease into it. Go on a couple of dates before you throw out the first kiss, right? Okay. Here's my hook. Nowadays, roughly 10% of the world's adult population lives alone. This means millions of 20 to 30-year-olds, let's put our hyphens in where they should go, 20 to 80-year-olds, and it's roughly the adult lifespan of humans, live in a house or apartment by themselves, wake and go to sleep without the companionship of others, without the constant, let's say. Makes it a little bit more accurate, right? Because they have companionship, just not as frequent when they're at home. So without the constant companionship or without the constant presence of others, right? Why is it important? This has a major impact on the psychological and social state of individuals, right? That's not my argument yet. I'm saying that's what it affects. That's why it's important, right? And then here comes my thesis. So the thesis is the two clear argument points, okay? In my opinion, the negatives of solitary life outweigh the positives, because it leads to depression and lack of production. Okay? Now, here, there's a mistake in my thesis. It's relatively a good thesis. I've got two points, but there's a mistake. So in my opinion, comma, it's a leading expression, the negatives of solitary life outweigh the positives because it leads to depression and a lack of production. What's the mistake? Everybody, what's my mistake? It's important for you to learn this part of English literature. In university, your professor will be looking at this. The marker will be looking at this very carefully. They will always catch it. They will always mark it. It will always hurt your score. And it does hurt your score on IELTS, even if your examiner is not 100% aware. Very good, Diaz. Diaz says there's no parallel grammar. Okay. These 2 points lack parallel grammar. Okay. Obviously, Diaz understands what it means to have parallel grammar. Okay. Parallel grammar is very important for your thesis. Okay. Parallel grammar means that both points have the same grammar form. So, for example, noun plus noun. Okay. So here I have a noun, right? Leads to depression. That's a noun. Okay, which is fine. And then a lack of production. That is not a noun. Okay. That is a verb with a noun. So what would be a noun? What would be a noun that means lack of production? How can I say a lack of production in one word in English? Okay. Leads to depression and, nope, Anahita, unproductivity, In productivity, Umra is okay. I might go with in productivity. But see, it's kind of like it's underlining it. This says unproductivity is the correct word. And unproductivity, it's kind of awkward English. Koa says in death. Hopefully not, Koa. I would actually use the word sloth here. Like the animal. Okay, depression and sloth. Now, this is looking good. Okay, so this is looking good. Is it perfect? And this is what you want to do when you're writing thesis statements. You want to make sure that your thesis is perfect. If any sentence in your essay is going to be perfect, it has to be your thesis because it will control the rest of your essay. Okay, keep this very important tip in mind, everybody. So, if any sentence in your task 2 essay for your high band score is to be perfect, it should be, it needs to be your thesis. Okay? Because it controls your essay, your ideas, and therefore your essay. Now, everybody out there who's like, wow, really all this for task 2 IELTS? Yes. For band 7 to 9 when you're planning to go to university? Yes. Why? Because what I'm teaching you here in this class is taught in most high school classes in the US, in Canada, and in the UK. And those students that don't learn these facts usually don't get the scores required to meet their first year English for university. And when you go to university, the professors and everybody expects you. So you might as well learn it now for IELTS to get a high score on IELTS and to do well in university. Okay, don't wait to go to university for your professor to fail you on your first 5 essays before you realize, hey, wait a second, I got to learn essay standards here, right? Okay. Kruti, lethargy is okay as well. Yeah. Mal says lethargy. Yeah. Lethargy could be a good word for the second word there. Absolutely. Okay. All right. Alex, the thesis should be as long as it needs to be. It's a good question. Alex is saying, how long should the thesis be? It should be as long as it needs to be. However, having said that, you should be as concise as possible. Okay. All right. Now, is my thesis perfect? I don't think so. I think I can make one more change to make it perfect. What can I do? So in my opinion, the negatives of solitary life outweigh the positives because it leads to depression and sloth. Okay? I can do one more very important step, actually, to make this, in my opinion, much better. What do you think that is? Okay. We can just use sloth, Anahita. You don't need to use slothery or slothfulness. Just sloth. Anahita says paraphrase. No, I don't need to paraphrase it, Anahita. I think the phrasing is okay. Kishab says mentioning another view. No, Kishab, I don't need to mention another view. I have lots of information with these 2 points that I can write about. No examples. The examples are going to be in the body paragraphs. Fuong, I already have my opinion. I'm saying, in my opinion, the negatives. So it's fine. Okay, always think about this. Students, when you have your thesis, always think about this. I can, Abhishek, I can criticize the positives in the body paragraphs, okay? Always think about this. With this thesis, what am I writing first? So what am I writing first here? For body 1. And this is good because it's going into our body paragraph 1. Am I writing about depression or sloth? Okay. What am I writing first? Okay. Complex sentences, Kishab, are throughout the essay. Okay. Don't forget, everybody, that according to the writing, this will be my point or paragraph 1. and this will be my point or paragraph 2, right? Okay, yeah, so many of you got that. So Raji and Fuang say, oh, okay, I see. So body paragraph 1 in this case would be about depression. Okay, all right. So, and then that means body paragraph 2, right, would be about sloth. So not being productive, not doing enough work or being creative enough, right? Sloth, right? Okay. Logically, what's better to do? Write about depression first or write about not being productive first? So ask that question. Always ask yourself, logically, which of my thesis points should I write about first? And again, different people will have different answers, and I'm not saying my way is the right way. It's sometimes up to you, but often you can kind of see, or most people will agree, that one makes sense more than the other. So logically, which of my thesis points should I write about first? Right? Depression first or not being productive first? What do you think comes first? Do you think I get depressed first and then I'm not productive? Or do you think I'm not productive and then I get depressed? Right? Carolina says, I would probably write about not being productive first. Yes, exactly, Koa. It's not about my highway or the my way or the highway. So it's not my way or the highway. There are lots of ways. There are lots of highways here, but you have to just have logic. Some people think depression. Some people think first you get depressed, then you lack productivity. Fair enough. It's a valid argument. In my opinion, we generally lack productivity first, and then we get depressed. Okay, so I'm going to reverse this. I'm going to take this and put it here. And I'm going to take this and put it here. Okay, all right, now I get into body paragraph 1. Okay, and body 1 has a topic sentence plus explanations plus examples. Okay, all right. So my topic sentence here is not being productive, and this is where I can define sloth more as being unproductive, right? So although it is true that people living alone are less distracted by family or roommates, ultimately, they are also susceptible with a C, S-U-C-E-P-T-I-B-L-E, susceptible. Susceptible means that that it can easily happen to them. Okay, if you are susceptible to something, it means it happens to you easily. So for example, I'm susceptible to catching a cold. Basically means it's easy for me to catch a cold. So although it is true that people living alone are less distracted by family or roommates, ultimately they are also susceptible to lack motivation and productivity. Okay, so this is my topic sentence. And it's very cleverly engineered because look, I'm giving a little bit of positive here. So I'm telling the reader that, no, I know that when you live by yourself, you don't have a crazy younger brother running around playing machine guns. I'm trying to do my math homework. Boom, boom. Yeah, okay. I get it. I have 2 brothers and I have 2 kids, so I didn't fall off the apple tree yesterday. So yes, although it is true that people living alone are less distracted by family or roommates, ultimately they are also susceptible to lack motivation and productivity. Now, the explanation, right? Why is that? Okay, so parents and roommates can strongly encourage individuals to produce, to be active, either by verbal suggestion or by example. Okay? All right? So that's the explanation, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? Your younger brother is running around playing machine guns and it's distracting you, but at the same time, your mom is going to say, hey, did you finish your homework? Nope. Please have a seat. Finish your homework. Or the example that we're going to use because, you know, we're maybe a little bit more mature. Okay. Is going to the gym. Why not? All right. So the example here, and you know, this is where it gets trickier, right? So the example, indeed, when I lived with a roomie in university, I went to the gym every morning with him for a workout, and now that I live by myself, I have become a 150 kilogram couch potato. I had. It was in my head. Oh boy. I hope nobody's going down that road. And if it has happened, come on. Get yourself your roommate back, okay? So on the IELTS exam, yeah, the examiner will say, wow, what an example. I'm giving this person a band 9, okay? So very powerful example, very visual, right? So, and again, a lot of you said, you know, let's give some powerful examples and let's get that band 9. So there you go. Angel says 150 kilos. That's what happens when you stop working out. Not at all. Alex has a good question. Alex says, is it too subjective if I use myself as the example? No, not at all, Alex. If you pay attention to the question, it's very clear that this is a subjective essay, and it's very clear that it's a first-person essay. The first person means you use I, me, my, okay? And the thesis introduces the subjective voice of the author. So here, the question says, do you think this is a positive or negative development? It's very clearly asking your opinion. So here I introduce the first person voice in the introduction, right? I say, in my opinion, right, Alex? So right there, I've introduced the first person voice of the author. Now in good writing, I use the first person at least once in each paragraph. Okay, so here I went to and I have become, right? So I'm not trying to hide the fact. I'm very clearly telling my reader, this is my experience, this is my opinion. I'm easing you down the path and I'm convincing you based on my observation of life, right? Okay, so here, now notice this also will be very powerful, this example, as a connection or transition to the next part of the essay, okay? So here's another really good tip, everybody. Okay, when you think of your explanations and examples, think information connects information. So connectives are okay and good to use. Like, therefore, on the other hand, and many more. Okay. However, Connectives by themselves do not make good writings. Okay, or good writing. Okay. So connectives just by themselves, and I've seen this. I've seen where people are like, I'm using first of all, and I'm using however, and on the other hand, I'm going to get a great score, and then you got a band 5. Yeah, those are just words. They're useful. Don't get me wrong, they're useful, but they're not going to get you a band 8 just because you wrote the phrase on the other hand, all right? By itself, it's virtually useless. Sometimes it's even confusing. So just be really careful. Okay. All right. Koa says, you can do voice acting. Koa, that is what I'm doing right now. All right. Angel, you could use like research studies and so on, but they're no more effective or less effective than a personal example here, right? I would say that this personal example is probably more powerful. Angel, keep in mind, a personal example is a case study. So a lot of people forget that, right? So research studies are categorized as experiments, right? Observations, case studies. And those of you who are in university know that, right? So a personal example can be thought of as a case study. Okay. And experiments are in science more valued than case studies, but case studies definitely have their value, especially when you have lots of the same kinds of case studies, right? Okay. So here it's asking for, and often the question, be very careful, students, will actually say include your own experiences, right? So include examples from your own life or experience. Pay special attention to that when it has that. Okay, so, all right, we need a comma there. Okay, and then here I can write a connective sentence. Ultimately, this will cascade. Eventually, this lack of motivation cascades and becomes an even greater problem. Okay, that is my connecting sentence, and you can use a connecting sentence. Does everybody understand the word cascades? And notice how I can just jump around. Like I can stop, talk to you, come back to this essay. This is the first time I'm writing this essay. Why am I able to move in and out of the essay so effectively? It's just because I know exactly what I want to write, because I have the structure in my head. I know what I want to say, and that is given to me by this very clear thesis statement. Okay? All right, that's why it's so important to have that thesis. All right. All right, Domenico is discussing financial strain. Domenico, that could work as well. Okay, cascade means to progress forward or to avalanche forward, if you will. Okay, all right. So now I write body paragraph 2. Body 2. Depression, right? Okay. So while solitary inhabitants or inhabitors, does that word even exist? Inhabitors? Inhabitants, I think. Inhibitors. Yeah, doesn't exist. While a solitary, now don't experiment on IELTS. Only use words that you're 100% sure exist and work, okay? While solitary residents, okay, now I'm sure that we have a good word here. While solitary residents enjoy their independence in the short term, right? Because it's usually the short term. Let's not fool with each other here. Eventually, most of us do feel like, yeah, maybe I should get a roommate or somebody to live with here, at least for a short time, right? Or some kind of a companion. Often people will live with a pet, a dog, a cat, some fish, right? It's the companionship, right? So while solitary residents enjoy their independence in the short term, in the long term, depression frequently is the consequence. Okay? So here, this is my topic sentence. Now my explanation, and again, the explanation here is quite straightforward. I know what I want to write. There are lots of different ways that you could write it. One sentence for each, everybody. You will end up with a beautiful 300-word Band 9 essay. Okay? So while solitary residents enjoy their independence in the short term, in the long term, depression frequently is the consequence, right? And then if we go by Koa's opinion, death, right? Well, it's sad, but sometimes true. Okay, especially for elderly, right? So while solitary residents enjoy their independence in the short term, in the long term, depression frequently is the consequence. Why? Okay, why? Simply, humans are social creatures by nature, right? All of you said that when we talked about that, right? When I asked, are humans designed by nature to be living alone, or are they designed to live with others? I think most of you, if not all of you, said, well, no, we're social creatures, right? Intrinsically, instinctually, we can't deny that nature has designed us to be social creatures. We don't do so well when we're by ourselves, right? Just look at some of those TV shows where they put people by themselves into the middle of nowhere, right? So simply, humans are social creatures, and both their physical and mental well-being depend on cohabitation. Okay, so it's the IELTS. You can write more, you can explain more if you want, but it's not necessary. If you feel like you have a good explanation, it's fine. And now here, I think Angel had this question of statistics. Why not combine a case study with an experiment? Okay, indeed, experiments have shown that depression, clinical depression, is 300% more common among people living alone than those living with family and friends. Okay? This is another reason I think the negatives are far greater than the positives. Okay, now keep writing, students. So I can see a lot of you are probably very focused on what I'm writing, the vocabulary that I'm using, and that's totally fine. At the same time, do continue writing. Okay. Okay. So here again, I include that first person in my concluding sentence here. This is a concluding sentence. The concluding sentence is not 100% necessary because your conclusion is coming. It's a short essay. In a longer essay, you would want that. Okay. Make sure you have the right than, not the you here, but the a version. Okay. And then review your paragraph. So important tip here, everyone. Review the paragraph as soon as you're done. All right. And so while solitary residents enjoy their independence in the short term, In the long term, depression frequently is the consequence. Now notice how I don't use future. I don't say will be. I use is. Why? Okay, I'm teaching you different levels for writing. Some of my tips are kind of, let's call them introductory level, so like writing a good hook. Some of my tips are for more advanced writers, like parallel grammar in your thesis statement. Here, this is also considered, let's say, call it a mid-level technique or ability in your writing. I don't want to say strategy, it's mid-level aspect of your writing. I avoid the use of will in a good persuasive essay. Why? And this is a very common mistake among candidates. But again, this is something that a lot of students will learn in high school in Australia, in New Zealand, in the US, in Canada, in the UK. Why? Why would the teacher say, don't use will? Okay, right? Angel says, because we're talking about facts. Fuang says, will is not convincing enough for the reader. Yeah, multiple answers are correct. Carolina says, staying in the same grammar throughout the essay. Yes. So the rule, and this is not Adrian saying, again, everybody, just be clear. In these classes, I do my best not to teach you Adrian's English or the tips or tricks that somebody discovered or thought of when they're looking at some videos online. No, these are facts. This is what I learned from my English professor in university, from my psychology professor in university. As many of you know, I have a psych degree, and this is what I'm passing on to you. Okay, these are facts. So the fact in essay writing, the rule, and this is a rule, is that good writing has consistent verb tense. Another way to think about it is it does not jump around. Okay, so when an essay jumps around, like this happened, this happens, this will happen, this has happened, this happened, this will happen, eventually you lose your reader. Your reader's like, where am I? 15th century? Dinosaurs? Spaceship? On the moon? In Mars? What? Now? Tomorrow? Before? My head just exploded, right? What are we even reading? So good essays, they stay consistent with the tenses and they maintain the tense. Okay, that's standard. You'll learn that, and I'm sure a lot of you who do masters and have written articles know this, right? Your article review is always like, watch your tense consistency, right? The other one is you want to be convincing, and I think this is what Fuang said, right? So Carolina, thank you, the brain explosion, right? So it's what Fuang said, right? It's more convincing. When it's true now instead of it will be true in the future, it's more convincing for your reader. If or when you use the present tense, and this is why we usually use the present tense, when you use the present tense, it makes a stronger argument because it is true now, not just in the future. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so I avoid the use of will. So when you're reviewing your writing for the IELTS for task 2, review for your tense use. So check, oh, am I jumping around a lot? I need to balance my tenses and change some of my, this is where the computer-based exam is a little bit more friendly or friendlier because you can make corrections like this a little bit faster, right? Okay, I see a lot of people are like, yeah, that makes sense, okay? Yeah, BM, exactly. It's also correct now, right? So, so stay in the present. So this is another reason I think the negatives are far greater than the positives. In conclusion, the conclusion, Conclusion has the points restated, argument strengthened, and the take-home message. Okay, so here I'm going to say, in conclusion, a solitary life, although glamorous at first, or inviting at first, leads to a lack of productivity and positive mood. Okay, so I've paraphrased sloth and depression. So in conclusion, a solitary life, although inviting at first, leads to a lack of productivity and positive mood. Therefore, I strongly, and now I strengthen my argument, I strongly believe that the negatives of living alone are much more than the benefits, especially over the course of many years, right? Because I keep mentioning that in the essay, the long term, so many years. Okay. And now my take-home message. For a greater enjoyment in life and creating more, people should consider roommates. Okay. And suddenly we get a whole bunch of advertisements for roommates after this class. I'm looking for a roommate. Right? Did I convince you? You're like, yes, you've convinced me. I need a roommate. No, that's not my goal here. My goal here is to teach you this Task 2 essay. You do what's best for you. All right. You do you. All right. Here we go. So, but if you feel like it's starting to convince you, you know it's a good essay, right? So now let's review this whole essay. I will tell you how many words it is, okay? Because some of you always ask me, like, how many words is that? Okay, so word count here is, I would guess around 310, but let's see. No, not quite. 296. And that's about a band 9. Okay, so words, 296. And it would definitely, with this clarity and grammar and everything, get you that band 9. Okay, hopefully. All right. Let's read the essay. Always read your full essay when it's done. Here we go. So let's look at the question for those who are just kind of joining in and like, what's going on? Task 2, everybody. Here's the original question. Task 2, writing. You should spend about 40 minutes on this task. In some countries, many more people are choosing to live alone nowadays than in the past. Do you think this is a positive or negative development? Okay. Here's my essay. Nowadays, roughly 10% of the world's adult population lives alone. This means millions of 20 to 80-year-olds live in a house or apartment by themselves, wake and go to sleep without constant companionship of others. There's my first fix. This has a major impact on the psychological and social state of individuals. In my opinion, the negatives of solitary life outweigh the positives because it leads to sloth and depression. Although it is true that people living alone are less distracted by family or roommates, and I might say something like noisy brothers, noisy siblings, or roommates, ultimately, they are also susceptible to lack motivation and productivity. Parents and roommates can strongly encourage individuals to be active either by verbal suggestion or by example. Indeed, when I lived with a roomie in university, I went to the gym every morning with him for a workout, and now that I live by myself, I have become a 150 kilogram couch potato. Eventually, this lack of motivation cascades and becomes an even greater problem. While solitary residents enjoy their independence in the short term, in the long term, depression frequently is the consequence. Simply, humans are social creatures, and both their physical and mental well-being depend on cohabitation. Indeed, experiments have shown that clinical depression is 300% more common among people living alone than those living with family and friends. This is another reason I think the negatives are far greater than the positives. In conclusion, a solitary life, although inviting at first thought, leads to a lack of productivity and positive mood. Therefore, I strongly believe that the negatives of living alone are much more than the benefits, especially over the course of many years. For greater enjoyment in life and creating more, people should consider roommates. Okay? All right. That's your Band 9 essay, everybody. That brings us to the end of the class. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, everybody, do remember, I will post this essay for you. Most, if not all, of this advice will be found somewhere in your premium course, in the writing section of your premium course at aehelp.com, gltshelp.com. You can get the premium version of our IELTS course through YouTube by clicking on products or shopping and then clicking on the products there, going through Shopify. You just have to send me an email to activate. We do have these big red buttons on the websites that you can click on at aehelp.com to join the premium version of the IELTS package right there. Okay. And for general IELTS, it's here. We are world leaders when it comes to IELTS exam preparation for many reasons. One is that we teach the actual tips and strategies of English communication literature as is expected in the IELTS and in your university studies. If you have questions, let me know. Carolina, Umra, it was great to have both of you in the class today. Okay. Thank you, subscribers. Thank you, members. It was lovely having you in this class. Tomorrow we have 2 speaking classes, and on Sunday we have the live class on our website at 13:30, so the same time we had our previous class, and that will be the My Student account. Click on the big blue button there. Okay. All right, everyone. Again, fantastic to have you with me. I love seeing your comments, your questions, your answers, your sentences. And I look forward to seeing more of it tomorrow. Much love to all of you, wherever you are in the world today. I hope you have a great start to the rest of your weekend. Stay healthy, stay strong, stay happy. Bye, everybody.